Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalren, and in today's video we'll be taking another look at the island expeditions, which is one of the biggest aspects, biggest selling points about BFA. It'll be a scenario style situation with 3 players and has a mode for PvP. The reason I want to take a look at this aspect of gameplay because I got really into Legion PvE. I'm really into the raid, at least the current raid, as well as the Mythic Plus. I really like the idea of small group level content that has a varying difficulty with an increase to it. The island expeditions will offer 2 modes that I'm super excited about. One of them is a Mythic Plus version where you can keep increasing the difficulty of the experience with the mobs hitting you harder, with challenges getting increasingly harder, as well as rewards getting better. But then there's also a PvP version for this event. The PvP aspect of Island Expeditions is going to be super exciting. Now, we don't really have a lot of information on how the PvP aspect of it's going to work, but I'm super excited about the small level 3v3 PvE focus and PvE objectives with the PvP elements of you competing against the other team and offering some PvP gameplay over the whole new Azurite system and how we'll be gathering it. Super excited to explore and take a look at some footage of that. But today we'll be taking a look at the PvE aspects of the island expeditions and what we have so far. So what are island expeditions and what is it supposed to be? You basically go to the island expeditions similar to scenarios back in Mists of Pandaria, and you try various objectives, and they'll have same maps or same set of maps with different objectives basically every time you queue into them. So it's supposed to be randomized so they have higher replayability to it. If you're doing the PvE version of this, you and 2 other players will be versing against NPCs, but there's supposed to be a new version of NPCs that Blizzard is experimenting with, more of PvP NPCs. That means NPCs that will function in a PvP aspect. There's many kinds of those NPCs, and we'll be able to take a look at them today in terms of different varieties and flavors, as there'll be various different teams, almost think like arena teams, that you'll be going up against with different strategies against all of them. Again, what Blizzard say is these teams do not act like normal NPCs. They'll either cast spells and or run directly towards you to engage in melee combat. Mages may cast blink to get away from you, while rogue characters may engage you in stealth if you get too close. If you remember the faction companions from Trial of Champion raid, then NPCs will act similarly, that is if you don't catch you off guard while you're already fighting deadly creatures. Now that's the biggest selling point of BFA, is the whole NPCs that are supposed to function in a more PvP manner. It's supposed to be basically NPCs that you would see inside of raids, inside of dungeons, but are supposed to engage with you like a player would. That's one of the biggest aspects of BFA. Warfronts is another aspect of BFA. You would think, wow, you are playing as Alliance or Horde and you're fighting the other faction. Obviously PvE content or PvP content. Instead, Blizzard says Warfronts is a PvE content and supposed to be filled with those kind of NPCs. So the idea for these types of PvE content to have some kind of a PvE PvP replayability, I feel like the NPCs really need to be done right. That's kind of what I want to really take a look at. What is the possibility? The only thing that Blizzard gave us so far is Trial of the Champion, and I never played back during Wrath of Lich King. So what I'm going to do is take a look at the actual responses of Trial of Champion to see what other people have said. Okay, so I am back after taking a quick look at what some of the comments, because what I was trying to do is figure out how can I get a little bit of an idea of what the experience was like from the actual raid. It's not like there's really a website that I can think off the top of my head where I can just go where people are talking about it like it's concurrent content, the difficulties, the things they're complaining about. So the closest thing I could find besides a video with the comments that could be dated or could be recent, I decided to go to Wowhead article when it was originally released, the guide, or at least the information about the raid. And you can actually see a lot of the comments back from 2009, 2008, or whenever it happened. Some of the things I learned from the NPCs back in Trial of Champion, or better yet, Trial of a Crusader, which was the raid version, where there was 25 of them. The mobs would focus people that are lower health. So aggro tables with a tank combination just wouldn't quite function. The NPCs would kind of function like player NPCs. So for tanks, what they did is basically unequip their shields to look like they have less armor rating, and then re-equip them right before they start the fight to draw in the aggro, which I thought was kind of interesting of an idea. Everybody said as soon as you get focused, just run to Guam, run as far away as you can, because eventually the people can peel you, or the NPCs will feel like they're overextending, so they will run back to where everybody else is at. Overall, I am actually, after looking at this, I thought to myself, wow, NPCs, that's what we're going to be fighting. And then the idea for Warfronts, where you have massive faction fights, massive faction battles in the open world, are just going to be players versus NPCs. I mean, as a PvPer, it just felt a little bit weird. So I guess these NPCs might actually be something good. We'll have to wait and see how they actually function. So from what I got from Trial of Champion and from Trial of Crusader, from what I gotten as somebody who didn't play through, literally read through some of the comments of the fight, it doesn't look half bad. But everybody who played back in Wrath will be able to tell me if this is actually good back in the day or if it was bad back in the day. Was it actually kind of fun and did it kind of act like players, or was it just some kind of a cheese mechanic and they were really just poorly programmed NPCs? I guess you'll have to let me know that in the comments, but again, I cannot really go back in time, or well, I can get myself a private server account on Wrath of the Lich King server, level a character, or just pay to boost a character, because chances are pay to win stuff is already in the game. Buy pay to win gear from that same server, find a group that's actually can do in the raid, maybe practice that raid, but with best in slot gear, pay to win stuff, I might actually have the way to cheese it. Maybe they'll have modified versions so it won't be the same exact thing. A lot of things that I just don't want to deal with. Technically I could, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see how these NPCs will function and perform. Here are some of the different NPCs we have. We have the Headhunters, which are, again, are all themed. All NPCs are themed. So it looks like these Headhunters, they'll have a Zandalari Troll, normal Dark Spirit Troll, and another Dark Spirit Troll. And the way they will function, the way that they will do all their abilities will be different. Like the way that they'll fight, the team comp. Think kind of like how when you go into an arena and you see various team comps, depending on which classes they have a slightly different playstyle. Some are more Mongo, they'll just train your healer down, and others will try to line up some kind of a cross CC combination, put the whole team under crowd control, and then take them all one at a time. So maybe that'll offer some capabilities. You also have the War Braves, which are the Tauren, looks like a protection paladin. That's what we need, tanks in PvP. We have this Dorp guy with a barrel hand and a gun for the other fist weapon, looking pretty great. The Blazing Sunhawks, which don't look impressive. The Highborn, which, I mean, are those NPCs from Nighthold? You got the Gazlo's Grease Monkeys, which I'm actually super excited about to see how that'll function. The Rocket Turret, the Heal Bot. You got the Arcana Bomb 2.0, Shadow Deke. Oh wow, that sounds like fun. And then you got the Expedition team for the Alliance. You got the Jaina's Angels, which I think are Blue Angels. Is that supposed to be the joke? The Wolf Pack. We got the Briona's Buccaneers with Stabby Lodi here. How do I say your name? Rift Runners. Rizak's Rough Riders with gnomes. So you can kind of see like how they have one faction, you have the other, and they're very similar. And then you also have a bunch of consumables for these island expeditions. Now these consumables, as far as I understand, will be usable in both PvE and PvP situations. They could lock them out for PvP in order to have a little bit more of a constructive PvP situation going on. But as far as we're to understand, we will take it into consideration that they are probably usable for everything. So what are the consumables? For the Horde vendors, you have Root Ball. Unleashes powerful roots that roots all enemies within 15 yards for 30 seconds. 30-second cooldown is... That has to be shorter for players, because that'll be insane. Just root them, 30 seconds later, root them again, 30 seconds later, root them again. That means if you catch them, they're done. Bloom Shroom, create a mushroom bloom, empowering allies inside of the mushroom with 50% increased damage and heal them for 2 seconds, last 30 seconds. Grape Shot Grenade, throw the grenade dealing 150,000 fire damage to enemies within 5 yards, or 25,000 fire damage within 5 yards. Hidden Cannon, fire a hidden blunderbuss dealing 50,000 fire damage to enemies within 6 yards, cone knocking them back. And Trick Vest absorbs 100,000 damage. 100,000 damage, deals 100,000 fire damage to enemies within 8 yards when removed. Now, this is a lot of useful items that will be used and abused in PvP, and of course the other side has a few different ones, like Links of Faith, which is chains of light that root all enemies for 30 seconds. Blessed Bandages, which restore 3% health and deal 3k holy damage to attackers. Sanctified Scroll goes down and a shaft of pure light, empowering allies inside of the beam with 10% increased damage and healing over a second. So it's basically similar things but modified. And it looks like Horde actually has one less than the Alliance. Ashran had a few of these things, but also that one battleground for Brawl, the Warsong Skirmish, I think, is where you have a bunch of different power-ups all over the map. You have your knockback, you have your imprison, you have your chains, you have your shrink ray. You have a lot of those abilities, and these really do seem to me very Ashran-like. They really seem PvE oriented and PvE focused, because they kind of seem like something that could be abused in PvP. That's why they seem more PvE focused. So I'm pretty sure Blizzard will take those into account, into consideration. So there's a lot of, I mean, I guess we kind of came around the circle in this video. We asked ourselves, how is this going to work? What are the expeditions going to be about? And then we kind of coming back to more questions for Blizzard to answer. I guess next time I'll make a video on the island expeditions and what they're all about. I think I'll wait until we have some actual footage to take a look at, so we can see clear examples of how NPCs are supposed to function. For some reason, I feel like Blizzard is not even sure how they're supposed to function yet, because we don't have anything like this defined. We are really early in the alpha, and this could be still up to the beta testing. But the fact that they still already have a set date in September 21st, hope they're not cornering themselves to an early date where the expansion might not have all the tests necessary in order to come out in a playable state. Where I mean by playable state, like comes out of the box all nice and fresh and works, instead of having to go through balancing patches later down the line, weeks or months into the expansion, to have to balance things out. Again, I'm trying to keep as much of a positive outlook in this as I can, but I'm also trying to take a look at take an account for all the unpredictables that might come around whenever we're talking about stuff like this. So still a lot up in the air about island expeditions. I guess it's really a question if island expeditions came out with the NPCs function exactly like in Trial of Champion or in Trial of Crusader, which is the raid version of that. If you're somebody who played Back in Wrath, if they came out with that exact playstyle in terms of mechanics, would it be a good piece of content? I also consider the fact that this kind of PvE style of content is also supposed to be ramping up into the Mythic Plus version. So the enemies are supposed to get harder, challenges are supposed to get harder, maybe enemies are supposed to get smarter, maybe they're supposed to use their items a lot more, something along those lines. So there is some capabilities for PvE. But I guess it's a question of, for anybody who did play in Wrath and played those raids in the past, would this kind of content, would this kind of NPCs, those types of NPCs in this kind of content, would it make it or break it? Is this something that's looking like it's shaping up to be good, or is that something that maybe Blizzard still has a lot of work to get to? So while making my video, I actually did find a live stream footage of like a 3-hour, 4-hour long live stream of this guy right here. Never met him before, never seen him about, so I'll have the stream, the full stream in description below, as I'm using some of his footage to illustrate you guys what this kind of looks like. This is the islands, and this guy is playing as a protection warrior, and he's engaging the NPCs that are supposed to act like players. Off the bat, and let me rewind this a little bit just so I can illustrate this for you guys a little bit easier. He engages these players, and all these player NPCs. They're NPCs that are supposed to act like players, and a lot of us were wondering, what is that going to look like? How are they going to act like players? And it feels a little crude. But for the first thing we see is the fact that all these guys are doing a lot of jumping around. They are doing a lot of jumping no matter where they go, just randomly jumping up in the air. And I guess this is something that maybe Blizzard would just look at and see, oh wow, PvPers jump around a lot, let's emulate it because PvPers like jumping around. No, there's usually like some kind of a reason for the jumps. It usually is accurate. It's the whole idea of you're trying to move in a direction while also trying to turn around maybe for a moment. It's not just they're just jumping around just because they love pressing the space button. So then you have this very kind of crude illustration of what the players would end up doing. So it doesn't really feel realistic. They are NPCs and they're just basically jumping around, looks like jumping beans, rather than with some sort of a purpose. But they are interesting NPCs. Later down in the stream, quite a short while from there, these guys on the Horde side encounter a rare, like one of the bigger rares, and they're fighting another Alliance NPC that's up and about. So at first you saw a range hunter like spec, a melee survival type spec, and then a rogue, but then there's also another dwarf. So are there going to be more than just 3 enemies on the enemy team, or when one dies another one kind of comes into combat or whatnot? You actually saw right here that he as a tank is still fighting the rare, the demon hunter is blinded, the pet is on him to try to stun him, and the other demon hunter is kind of trying to tussle with him, but it looks like there isn't too much luck. So far I haven't really seen anything, and you also got to understand these guys are playing the island expeditions, but they're also clicking a lot of their abilities. So we're not going to see some mythic raiders. and I doubt we'll see some high rated PvPers. But the thing you should take a look at is how the NPCs function. The rogue a lot doesn't engage and stay in combat. The rogue kind of pushes in and kind of circles around and will attack somebody by themselves, but a lot of runaways. There's a hunter type of dark iron dwarf that'll just shoot from a distance. Then they have this tank looking kind of guy that's has a pain suppression type of effect. He's literally just a tank guy. So it looks like there's more than just 3 enemies that you would see on an island. It looks like you're going up against the whole team. You're going up against, what would the dwarves have? They would have a gnome for a rogue role. They have a dwarf hunter range, dwarf hunter melee with a pet, with a harpoon, actually like a grip mechanic, so almost like an unholy DK with a pet that stuns. And then you have this tank character, or unless that's the same character. Maybe that is the same exact character, because it looked like he did have some kind of a grip, so it looks like it's a tank with a pet. Or maybe the hunter pet is for the hunt. That actually makes a lot more sense, because it looked to me like it was a hunter, survival hunter, and a rogue. But it seems to be a warrior, hunter, and a rogue. And you see how they're engaging, they're doing CC, they're pushing this, they're throwing out cooldowns left and right. But a lot of it is jumping and jumping and jumping like a jumping bee. You skip a little bit further ahead and you find this guy doing a similar looking type of expedition. But the scenario is different, the enemies around it are different, and the enemies he's fighting are different. So instead of having a team that he's versing against that are mostly dwarves, now it's mostly Lightforged Genii that were engaging a group of NPCs, and now they're having to kind of fight off the horde that decided to come at him. So of course you have like tanky guy that looks like he has a root. You have this mage character that's sitting in the back and is just getting wailed by this other warrior looking character. And I mean, these guys are definitely doing a lot less jumping. All of a sudden, these guys definitely jump around a lot less, but or at least you can see the mage, but you can see the root goes to the side, tries to get a few spells. But I guess we see them kind of trying to mimic players. Sorta, kinda. Is that really functional? Is that really working out well? I don't really know. Is that going to be something that we'll want in the future? Hard to tell. Is this early? Yes, this is super early with the content. And I guess part of the expeditions, you're looking at the PvE aspects of it, not just, you know, how the, I guess, the characters function, but also kind of how the, I guess, the players function, how the players engage these NPCs. Do these NPCs pose some sort of a PvE challenge? Because these NPCs in the long run are NPCs. I guess it's a question of, are they, it shouldn't be a question about, do they play like real PvPers to give you a PvP experience, rather than, do they give you a different PvE experience that's unique and exciting and interesting in its own way? Of course, those guys are really not the challenge, they're really just like a hurdle for the challenge that is the island and expedition and all the different things you can do on the island. I think the PvP aspect of it will be a lot more exciting to have players interacting with each other in kind of world PvP type of scenario. Of course, you can have tanks and healers though, so that might ruin a lot of the fun. Imagine going up against 3 blood DKs. And let's say they're just as tanky as they are right now. Engaging those guys will be an absolute nightmare, so the best way to avoid them is to just stop them before they even get together, or if they do split, just kill them all one by one and try to do as many objectives as possible. So a lot of possibility for, I guess, tomfoolery, a lot of possibilities for shenanigans, a lot of possibility for broken comps that could probably really do extremely well in these kind of challenges and these kind of pieces of content. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. Likes all of my videos. Let's be honest, likes all of my videos, not only the possibility for me to reach a wider audience, but apparently YouTube also does not put out subscription feeds to people that are subscribed to the channel. They stated themselves recently, and I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, that only people that are the most committed to the channels, that are the most active with the channels, will get their videos in subscribe feed. So hitting a like guarantees that you will end up seeing more videos from me. Hitting comment and commenting something will guarantee that you are more likely to see videos from me. Or if you want to have a 100% guarantee that you will see every single one of my videos in case you've been missing any, then go ahead and hit the notification down below to catch the streams as well as the videos. I might make a separate video on the whole YouTube thing, but let me know your thoughts, guys, in the comments below. I still want to hear from all of you. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see all of you guys in another video.